In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory to you, O God, glory to you. O heavenly King, Comforter, the Spirit of truth, everywhere present and filling all things, treasury of good things and giver of life, come and dwell in us and cleanse us from every stain and save our souls, O good one. So today's webinar will talk about the DCS. Now, we'll talk about how I currently generate the DCS, some of the steps I have to go through, some of the things we have to keep in mind, various processes and checks. And I'm sure that it will be a little different in Voxa, but here we'll give some idea of the kind of things one needs to be aware of. Michael, do I have share screen? Yes.
You do.
Okay. So here's the list, the outline. We have the DCS, we have generator settings. We'll look at the preferences, the actual generation of HTML and PDF of we're talking about services now, the service templates for the months and days that we select. We'll talk about the assets project, which is all the background stuff that goes into that creates the website and the various things that the website needs. Service categories and names in the system project that will tell us about the indexes that are created and what words go in those indexes for each date. Other non-auto-generated content, that would be any changes to the blank file, which is what we call the sort of default file that shows on the DCS on the right side. You know, what that says, it could be updates, could be nothing, it could be an icon, whatever, but that's not created. Well, I mean, it could be, but that is that's part of the assets. And anyway, we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about index modifications, which I think I'll speak about the principle of it, but I'm sure it's going to be done differently in Voxa. And we might get to sacraments and services and the books index. So let me share. Oops, not that. Okay, I made a few weeks ago, I said, you know, I should really make a checklist of the things I need to do when it's time to generate. And as a matter of fact, it will be time to regenerate the website tomorrow or the next day, or early next week. The Archdiocese currently, the Archdiocese likes to have 3 or 4 months, but not more, on the DCS at any given time, just because it becomes unwieldy. But we also archive every 4 months. So I think 3 times a year, we have 3 archive files for a year. So what I'll do when I get to that. All right. We have check template status. So let's just say that it's tomorrow and I'm going to generate the next few months. So I will share the ALWB. My first task is to make sure that, well, here, this is for Jesse's benefit. I keep a spreadsheet that helps me keep track of the status of the translation work and the templates that are being prepared. So can you see the spreadsheet? Yes, okay.
Yes.
So I do this, you can see that I've been doing this since 2017, 2018, 19, 20, so we're at 2023 now. And the spreadsheet is from January 1st through December 31st. We work, each day of the year has its templates that we will use. And what I've done is, obviously that's the day of the week. This is the movable cycle day or the mode or whatever, some extra information. This is it's just a reference. What is the commemoration? Epiphany on the 6th. This is a column that I added to give me an idea of what music needs to be done still, or the status of the scores for that day. And then here are the actual templates. Vespers, Compline, the actual services. Vespers, Compline, Midnight Office, Matins. Matins 8 means the matins that I prepare for the Holy Cross Seminary Chapel. HR 136, that's hours, 1st, 3rd, and 6th. The Divine Liturgy, the 9th hour, and then the file, that is the daily readings. And then I put the date again on this side just so that I don't have to keep looking left to right. It's just, there. And then I have my, whether if I've posted if I've generated that, I posted, then I put an X on there. So I haven't done May. That's why the X's end, at May 1st. Right? So I have my own system on this. When January 1st, no, we're going to go in May. So May 1st, it's a Monday. I will open that template. It's a Monday. It's 86 on the movable cycle. Happens to be Jeremiah. I don't have any scores. And this tells me that we have the Vespers. There's a Vespers template. And X means that it is ready to go. Blue background means that there are some hymns there that could be metered but aren't, which means probably provided by OCA or whatever. That's just information for me. Blue means that someone could go in and retranslate something into meter, but there is something there. There's no compline for that day. In other words, we're not providing a compline service for that. We're not providing a midnight office. We are providing matins, and it's just a daily matins. And I guess I'm also preparing a matins for the seminary.
Father?
X, yes.
What's the criteria that depends on whether you're going to do compline and midnight office, etc.?
If it's just daily compline, it's like small compline, like most of the year. We would expect, first of all, that not many people do it, but we would expect that people can go to the books menu, find compline, and just read it from there. And then they would have to add, then they would have to go to the readings for the day, wherever which has maybe it has the Apolitikion or whatever. They would have to find the Apolitikion and the Kodakion that they need for the day. But we do provide compline for all of Lent. So all of Lent has like almost all the services. But outside of Lent, it was a choice to not provide all. It just makes it very cumbersome, very big. When the service is basically the same except for, 1 or 2 hymns. The same with the midnight office. Midnight office has no change whatsoever, except if it's a, Monday or Wednesday, or if it's a Tuesday or Thursday or whatever. I mean, those are in the compline file. It's the midnight office file. There are no real changeable parts there, a few maybe. And does that answer your question? I mean, it was a choice. Okay. Here, the X2 under liturgy means that the full liturgy is there. And the liturgy variable parts file is there. That's what X2. So the LI and LI2, that means that's what it means to me. Just as a heads up, well, no. This May 2nd, St. Athanasius, a bigger saint, we're only providing one Vespers file. We're not providing a full-blown Vespers with Liti. He doesn't have a Liti. He doesn't have, you know. We do provide a midnight office because it's in the patriarchal Emetologion. That sort of tells me when to put midnight office is when the patriarchal Emetologion actually says, you know, at the midnight office, do this. Here now, under matins, we have X, 2, and 3. So X means regular matins that a parish would do. The 2 stands for the customizable matins that has the canon and gospel readings and everything there, and you can go in and in HTML you can select, you know, which parts of the service you more or less, and you can view that. And X, the 3 means there's a version of matins that's the unabridged that has rubrics for the Psalter, and it has the full canon all spelled out. And again, MA8 means what the seminary is going to do that day, X1 and X2. All right. Here, just to say, on May 8th is St. John the Theologian. And for him, we have a X2, which means we have regular Vespers that most places will do. And then we have Vespers full-blown with the Liti and the blessing of loaves, you know, for a church that may celebrate that or wants to do, you know, we can't anticipate everybody, you know, every parish in every situation. So when we try to provide some general formats of the service, and the others we've spoken about. All right. So my first task, therefore, is to check the status of the file, of the templates. And that spreadsheet that I just showed you is how I keep track of whether or not those templates are ready. In the course of working, if a template is not ready, it gets an R, which stands for review, that it still needs work, and the background of that cell would be red, bright red, that says stop, you need to do something. But none of that is the case currently in the spreadsheet for anything. I've got it ready till the end of the year. I use some other colors for other things, but anyway, so that I use an outside spreadsheet to help me keep track of the status of the files, of the templates. Now we'll look at what I mean by status of a template. I think we talked about it before, but here in the ALWB, I will open. Okay. All right. Here's the template for Vespers for May 1st. And notice up here, all service templates have a status line. And if the line, if it's ready to go, the status is final. If it's not ready to go, the status would be either review, and that I have used the review status to tell me that the template is ready, but there are some texts missing. That's what that means for me. Other people can use those statuses, or I think maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Luxa, there's any number of statuses. Is that true, Michael?
Well, there's a fixed number of statuses.
Okay.
I mean, it covers, I'll check and make sure I've got review as one of them, but.
Okay, I mean, it could be whatever the names are, just so that there's, you know, I have 4 statuses. I have final, I have review, I have draft, Draft I use for a template that hasn't quite been built. It's not about whether there's texts for it in any of the libraries. For me, draft means this template hasn't been completely built. And then another one is NA. And those are for templates that, for whatever reason, I don't want to be generated this year. And that means like well, anyway, that's what that means. So if we look at all the possible templates here in February 1st, in May 1st, okay, we see there's VL down here. Do you see that? That means this is a template for Vesperal liturgy. And that we would use that when, like, the only time that's used is when its movable cycle is 69 or 71. So if Easter is really late and Holy Thursday or Holy Friday or Holy, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if they fall on May 1st, then we want, that Thursday morning liturgy, it's really Friday, and the Saturday morning liturgy, which is really, the Vespers of Pascha. May 1st would be a Vesperal liturgy, not a regular liturgy, but a Vesperal liturgy. And so that's why that template is here. And because this year, Pascha is not in May, or whatever, that's why the NA. Okay, so when it comes time to run, yes.
Sorry. Okay, so in Voxa we have NA, draft, review, and final.
That's sufficient for me. Yeah. Okay, so when we run the templates, and we're going to say run all templates within, this span of dates that have status final, this template will be overlooked because its status is NA, right? It could be a complete template, and it could have text for it when it is used, but this year I don't want it to run at all. So we have, here is Vespers V2. And again, May 1st is a minor commemoration of the prophet Jeremiah. So why would there ever be a great Vespers, for with Liti or whatever on May 1st? Well, that would be in case it fell on Palm Sunday or one of the days of Bright Week. We would offer regular Vespers, but also, a bigger Vespers for some of the saints that are celebrated during that are celebrated during Bright Week. In this case, however, so it must have happened sometime, and that's why I created that template for May 1st for full Vespers. But that's not happening this year. That's why it has NA. Here's the Vespers template. Yes, we're going to have Vespers, whatever that template is going to be. It says final. Again, PL stands for pre-sanctified liturgy, and PL2 stands for the variable parts of pre-sanctified liturgy. That's what these templates are for, but we're not using them, so they have NA. Okay, and so forth. So that's how we check to make sure that we only have final, the ones that we want, and that we actually do have final, the ones that we want. I can do that by eyeballing them. And at some point, I've already generated all of them as a test, to, especially the Vespers and the Matins, to make sure. As I was preparing these 6 months ago, I would generate, a Vespers, and it would, if it indicated that we were missing hymns, I would make a review, and then I would come back to it, and fill those hymns. In this case, though, all that work has been done, and except for an oversight, all these templates for the first, the second, the third, they have all been, their status has been, set, and so only the ones with final, will be generated. So that's what I mean, checking the status. It's like a one last time to go through and make sure that those statuses are correct. You can always go back and fix it, but it's really hard. It's more work to add a service than it is to delete one. All right. The next thing, I'm not going to change the screen share, but the next thing on the to-do list, the checklist, is turn off indexer. What does that mean? So currently, and that might not even be an issue in Loxa, but every time that I run a template, it deploys a whole site. It just keeps, and I generate a template, the whole site gets deployed. And that really takes a long time. Not so much if it's one file, but if I'm generating, like 100 files all at once, it's got to create indexes, all those pages for every day and all that kind of stuff. And we've realized that's really time consuming. So there's a setting, we don't have to go to it, that for my purposes, I turn it off until the very end. And then at the very end, I say create the indexes. Let's see, archive the old months. So I go into here's our GOA website, okay? And I go here. And I see that we have, in this website, we have January, February, March, April. So what I'm going to do is I will copy this folder, much like this one says 2022 September, month 09 to 012. I'll do the same thing. First I'll copy this. I'll put it here, and I'm going to call it GOA 2023 01 04. And that will be the archive that I will put on the server, and I'll show you how I create the link for that. We used to have an automated archiver for that, but we don't have that now. And then I am able to remove things from the active GOA website and not worry that we've lost them because they are in the archive. And if anybody wants something before, if they want January of 2023 or February, whatever, they can go to the archive and find what had been posted before. Notice how long it's taking to copy. And there we are. Okay, so here's our archive. So now we can do changes here and not worry about losing anything. And then the next thing to do would be delete the old months. So then I would open the website, and first I would go to the H folder and open this S services and open here. And so when I generate the site tomorrow, it's going to be April, May, and June, and maybe July. Okay. But actually, I should leave all of Lent there. So it's going to be March, April, May, June, 4 months. All right. It doesn't matter what's in this active website because we've already done the archive. The archive can overlap every day. I don't care. So I'm going to remove months 1 and 2. So here I just delete them from the HTML. And then I go to the PDF folder and select months 1 and 2 and just delete them. Okay. All of that was in the GOA folder. That is the folder with the GOA DCS. Are we okay so far? Everyone understand so far what I'm doing? Okay. All right. So now the website is ready to be added to. The next thing is in the generator, here's the folder with the generator tools and files. These three files are important. So I'm going to open all three of them. And the first one is pref master templates. That will be, I'm sure that will be done differently in Voxa. But what we need to do is tell the generator that we are going to work on the GOA website, not the test website, not the Holy Cross Chapel website, not the St. Nicholas Shrine website, not some, special request from some diocese. So currently, this is very rudimentary, but I'm sure it'll be better in Voxa. So I comment out the line that says that's for test, and I uncomment the line for the GoArch website. Now, what this does is it points to the preferences file of GoArch. So let's take a look here. Here's where I have stored those preferences. We'll go to the GoArch file, and it's pointing to a file called pref main GoArch. And so here it is, pref main GoArch. And what that tells us is when we generate pref generation ALWB, I think that's generation preferences. That is this one. So we'll get to that. It says use that. For the version, use the GoArch version file. Okay, so version means the important ones are which version of Greek and which version of English to use, or which version of language 1 and which version of language 2 to use in generating this file, these files. So right now we're just going to concentrate on liturgical down here. So this is saying, as we generate this website now for GOA, for the Greek side, look first at GRUS GOA. GR is the domain, right?
Language code.
Domain.
Country code. No.
Language
code, country
domain.
code.
Oh, what's domain and realm? Or are those in Aries files?
Domain and realm are pretty much synonyms, but it's the GOA part. It's the last part there.
Okay. So language, so Greek. Why US? Because the GOA is in the US. Okay. So it's a version of Greek that's in the US, and it's called GOA. Now, why do we have that file? Let's say that the normal Greek books, library, petitions, whatever, are a certain way, like the Church, we use the Church of Greece as our standard. But the Greek Archdiocese wants to say that in a particular way, okay, in Greek. So it's going to go look for every key that the template is going to, look. It's going to look first to see, is there a file and a key that has the GRUS GOA? And trust me, there's very few. It's like, there's very few. I mean, is it here? Anyway, it's just seeing, we want the preferences for GOA stuff, and then everything else will default back to the regular Greek library. For language 2, or for the English, the preferred is US public. And we have no fallback. I don't use the fallback for English because the public library functions as our whole way of bringing together the various languages. There will always be something in public. Sorry, down here, liturgical. So do you understand that? The idea of preferred, fallback, and public's function of doing that. Okay. So we're appointing, the generator is pointing to this file and saying, use what's going to be in this file, use the version from GoArch, use the GoArch website settings, and they're down here. Okay. So in the website settings, it says call the website GOA. And if you look at the URL of the DCS of that's where the GOA comes from. I could have called it Greek Archdiocese or Greek Orthodox, and that's what would be in the URL. Okay, but this is it, and then the inside folder has to be DCS, and these must be lowercase. I don't know if that changes. I'm not gonna address these now. I mean, this is the services, the books, and the custom folders that are generated. I never touch those, so it doesn't matter. And we used to be able to, and maybe still, but I don't use this anymore, where we would actually copy all the media that's used, all the scores that are linked, actually put them in the website itself. But we don't do that. And our media map, directs all the URLs to the server. Here's this line here, generate services index. So that means every time, the generator runs, it says, after you've created all the files, go back and look and, all the dates and all the services there, and then create the indexes. By indexes, I mean, when you click on a date, and it opens and it says, it's May 1st, and on May 1st we have, midnight office, click here, or, matins here. Those are the indexes. Those have to only have the services that are there. So, but that process takes, a fair bit of time. So when I said I turn off, the indexer, that's what I mean. I could put no here temporarily. And then I can just do all the indexing at the end. Okay, that's just for a convenience. I don't gotta worry about that. The books index, it's possible that we could auto-generate the books index, and it would look at what's in the B folder of the website and create an index there, but we stopped doing that many years ago. And the books and index is created manually. And the same with custom index, we don't even use that anymore. Here, this setting is index version is the version of the website index titles files. The website index titles. And here it is, the website index titles. GoArch matches with GoArch. So the words that are in this file will be the words that are used to call the services to call it. So when you see it opens up May 1st and it says Vespers, that's because that's what it says here, Vespers, all right? Every time it sees a template that ends in VE, it will say Vespers. When it sees a template called VE2, it will say Vespers unabridged. Much like Matins. We have the regular Matins, it says Matins. If it says Matins 2, which we see a lot, that's why it says Matins customizable. Maybe I should have called it customizable Matins. And if I change that here to say customizable Matins, then that's what's going to show on the index instead of Matins dash customizable. So this is what the website index titles are, the titles of the indexes in the website, okay? And these names of services, LI, LI1, LI2, they correspond with the file extensions of the templates that we're generating. For example, if we go back to May 1st, Okay, we had this open previously, so here's, VL. If it says VL, then what do we say? VL, it would say Vesperal Liturgy. If the extension is V2, VE2, VE2 would show these words, Vespers Unabridged. I should have said unabridged Vespers, but I said Vespers Unabridged. Whatever I put here, that's what's going to show. So the same with all of these. Whatever, the file extension is on a template, it triggers the name that's on the index title. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. That was that. Then the next one says HTML preference, prefs HTML, Go Arch. So that's here, this preference. And we go here. And here's where we say, do you want to show audio links or not? Now, of course, that's going to be different. We're still going to have that option in Voxa, but it'll be handled, in a different way, but we get to choose. Do you want, when you generate the HTML, do you want to show audio links or not? And I say yes. Although on the apps, I think we can, after they've generated, I think the apps now provide, or the iPad app after the fact, the client side gives you the opportunity to hide or show. But this is saying when you generate the HTML, do you want the audio links in? Do you want links to Byzantine scores? Do you want links to Western scores? Do you want links to any text files that are there? And here's an option. Put single media occurrence in a dropdown, yes or no. And we just always keep it yes. So that means like if you click on an audio link, say, or if you click on let's say a Byzantine music symbol to see what Byzantine score, you have for that, and you click it, there's a dropdown. And sometimes there's 2 or 3, options that you can pick. But it used to be that if there was only one option, it would just open it. But we decided, no, even with one, even if it's one, do the drop down because it also provides some information there. So this is just, although we have the option, we just keep it yes all the time. And then much like the version of the texts, we get to choose what, I guess this would be, which media map should you go to, for the media links. And again, the default one would be the GOA. Let's just say that the GOA had some peculiar scores of its own, and that we would use that for that. Otherwise, default back to the media map called GRCOG. Similarly for the English, but really it's only going to go back to the public media map. Does that make sense? These are just all settings that need to be, that are happening in the background. They could be on, they could be off, whatever, but somewhere the program needs to be told to do these things. And oftentimes once they're set, we forget about them, until we need to do webinars. And then this last one is PDF prefs, preferences for PDF generation. And for this one, we just have a general one, PDF ALWB, and that is, where's that? Here it is. So here are the PDF. So when we generate PDF files, what should those PDF files, here's how we handle how big the page is, 8.5 by 11. 8.5 by 11, even, odd. Is there a margin? Yes, here's the margin. The header should be how big? Okay, you understand these kinds of settings you can do like in Word or other things. They tell you what they call it, page layout or something like that, This is where we could change, for example, here, this file here is for legal size. If we wanted to make, instead of 8.5 by 11, if we were going to make a booklet, that was using legal size paper, we could say use instead of instead of ALWB regular, we could comment that out and use this one that's legal and legal size paper, and that's what that does. It changes it to 7 by 8.5 with different margins, et cetera, et cetera. That's where those settings, get set. And I've put them in different files instead of changing the numbers, in this. I mean, you could change the settings. They're just strings, right? But I don't want to forget what I had. It's just easier to have it in another file, and you would point to that other file. Again, it'll be done differently in Voxa, but it has to be done somewhere. And that's it. So back to here. Okay. So the master templates, here's where we were. Master says, which website are you going to work on and whose preferences are you going to use? And then we selected GoArch. And so then it goes through all of those settings and picks the ones that are for GoArch. Okay. We can turn these off. So that's what's going to happen with the website. Then we have this file, which is called the generation. Now, this is going to tell the generator what exactly to generate. HTML, in Greek and English, in English only, in Greek only, because we have those options, right? You've seen when you open the index, it says Matins, English, or Greek and English, or Greek only, right? And currently we call it view instead of HTML, we call it view. And then, again, Matins, and then it says print, that's the PDF files. And currently we only provide the options for Greek and English. We don't generate, we could, but we don't generate Greek only, okay? Because they can do that in Greece. So I usually like to do them separately just because there's a lot happening and I just don't want anything to overload the program. But I can do, like, if I say here, yes, generate HTML. No, do not generate Greek only HTML. Yes, generate English only HTML. And yes, for Greek and English. I'll do PDF later. So, okay, I set those. And some other settings here are when you generate PDF, which styles should you use? So that's that. We don't use the translation management system. So here's an interesting thing. You know how when you see a hymn in English, and at the end, there's in light blue, there's a bracket that has a couple of letters in it. Not if you know what I'm talking about. Yes, Jesse, you know what I'm talking about? If you look at open the DCS and open any service in English, and if you look at a hymn or a psalm, in English, at the end of the paragraph, there's going to be an indicator in small blue text that says either SD for Seraphim Deities or SAS.
Yeah, I know that. I'd forgotten that it was in blue, but
okay,
I know what that is.
So those are version indicators for, because we have multiple versions in English, and we do cite the sources and the copyrights and whatever in the about page or whatever, but this is a way of indicating who translated, whose translation, or where the source is. So here are the settings for that. And it says when you generate, do you want to show the version for language one? In other words, for Greek. And it would be unnecessary because it's all the same. Everything from Greek. I mean, but we could, but we're not going to. And then for language two, which in our case is English, the public English, we say yes, we want to show that version name. And you know how it's surrounded by brackets? That's where this comes. We could have said surround it with parentheses, or surround it with a dash or with nothing or whatever. Okay, so I've decided to do brackets, and the instructions actually are here. That's all right. In any template where there's like a hymn, okay, wherever this tag is, where it says add version, that's what tells the program at the end of that paragraph, at the end of this Politikion 1, put the version. Or that is, yeah, and then here's where we actually say put the version, and it gets it from there. If we say get the version here, yes, excuse me, get the version. If we said yes to English, but in the actual, if this tag were not here, it wouldn't think to get it because we haven't asked for it. Okay, this is what says. Here's a thing that we want the version for, but notice we don't want the version of the mode. We don't want the version of some of these other tags. We only want the version of the hymn or the reading or whatever. And this is and Michael, is it similar in Doxa?
I'm sorry, I was checking something. Say that again.
The version tag for whatever, is it the same in Doxa? That, I mean, it has to be placed.
Exactly the same.
Exactly. Okay. So you want to remember to do that. Otherwise, unless you think everything is from the same source, you don't want to indicate the different translators, then you wouldn't use the version tag anywhere. But in the case of English, because there's so many contributors, we use it. All right, so yes to English, and then surround it with brackets. And in the case where, this is an interesting thing which almost never happens, in the event that there are multiple SIDS RIDs within one hymn, for example, a hymn tag, and there are two, half the hymn is Dides and half the hymn is GOA, I mean, I don't know when that would happen, but it could. And they both ask for the language tag, then both of them would be put, the version tag, both of them would be put in the brackets, and they would be separated by whichever delimiter we set here. And we've set it as comma. It never happens. I mean, it almost never happens. But if there were two, it would be, this. This is what it would look like. I mean, I might have said put the a slash, or put a period or whatever. But that's where that comes from. We did not do EPUB, so we don't need these. And then these, I was told, simply never touch. So I don't. All right. So here's all that, so now you're seeing where all these instructions of everything that appears on the website, we tell it somewhere to do that. So we've said now, do that, do all these things, and we're going to generate HTML in English and Greek in English. And store it in the GOA website. Okay. And the GOA website is right here. Okay. So I've opened up the HTML folder, and we have March and April. And now I'm going to generate, let's go to Matins. I'm going to generate Matins for May 1st. Okay. And you'll see what happens here in the website itself. Okay. So in order to generate, I simply do Control G. So I do that now. And then wait. And it depends on the time of day sometimes, how long I need to wait, or how many files I'm doing. You know, sometimes my computer works very quickly, but I mean, it can take, you know, it hangs. Doesn't mean that it's not working, but it takes time for everything to happen. That will be different. I mean, I think in Voxa, I mean, it's instant. I don't know.
Yeah, it's usually milliseconds, but at
Yeah.
most a couple seconds. Yeah.
Now watch what's going to happen here in the left pane in the folder of HTML. So it took all the instructions first. It took the template that we had, and everywhere that the template points, and it took all those strings of text and Greek and English and whatever, and then it put them through the CSS, and it put them through all those instructions of the website of what to do with the website. I haven't even told you where that comes from. And it not only generates the files, but it generates the whole website. So the whole website is being like refreshed. So you just saw it here. Do you see that? It added May. It added the May folder. It added day 1, May 1st, Matins. Here's the English. Here's the Greek and English. And if we were to open these, we would see they are all those things that we asked for. Media links, you know, version designation, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's all there. All right, so that was one file. One file of one day. That could take forever, you know, to do all the days that I want and all the services that I want. So that's why we have this other file here. And it's called the generator. And the generator is here. So the generator uses a regular expression. And let's look at this regular expression. I have a lot of regular expressions that I've used before, and I have them here stored. You know, I've commented them out. You can only have one going at a time. All, you know, this whole thing are all regular expressions to generate various things that I need to generate in a sort of batch. But we're only going to look at this one here. So what is the regular expression? It says, go and get all templates that fill this. So the template has to start with SE. So let's look at this. Okay, all right. So these all do, right? SE stands for service. And then M, and I'm going to change that to 5. So it gets all service templates that then have M05, meaning May. And the date, I'm going to do this and say with a 2-digit date, and they all are either 01, 02 to 030 and 030, or to 30 and 31. Okay, so that's all of them have 2 digits. And that the service, the file extension, well, it's not the file extension, but the service indicator has either 2 characters or 3 characters. None of them have 4. So that's going to catch, for example, LI, which has 2 characters, and LI2, which is 3 characters. That's how a regular expression works, is it two anythings or 3 anythings, right? And it must end with .atom. So all these files, of all these files, it could potentially generate all of them from May 1st to May 30th, 31st. But we have a final filter that says, but only the ones that have final status. Okay, so it's not going to get the NAs, so it won't get VL, it won't get VL2, you know, that's why we did the status. So if I were to do that, it will give me, and we're going to do it. So I just said generate, okay? It's generating now, as we wait, all the files from May 1st to May 31st, all the templates of all the services that we wanted, that we gave final status to. And it's going to generate them in in English, and also 2-column Greek and English. And it's going to have the media links, because we said yes. And it's going to have the version designation at the end of each paragraph. And it's also going to create, well, it's also going to create the indexes. And it's going to create all the folders. Unfortunately, we can't see that. I can't do anything in the workbench now while it's working. Okay, but we wait. These processes will be similar in Doxa. We'll be able to do batches, right? Right, Michael? We'll be able to generate. Will it be
Yes.
based on a?
Yeah.
Will it be
But
based on a
faster.
regular expression?
But faster.
Will it be setting? Yeah. Will it
Yeah,
be
it's
like
regular, it's regular expression.
Oh, okay. Someone can write GUI for that and just put your month, your date, your. Oh, well, the spans. I like regular expressions. Okay, so we're almost there. We're almost there. Are we there yet? Not yet. Oh my gosh, it's 4:30. We've been here for an hour. Is that? Do we have more time? Do you want more time? Okay.
I'm good.
I don't have too much more time, Father Seraphim. I have maybe a couple more minutes.
Sure, and then we'll continue. So what we've done is we've generated a batch, okay? And I'll just show you what it did to the website, and then we'll stop. And then in the next webinar, we could talk about the rest of what it takes to generate the website. Okay, so here we are. Please stop. Okay. Okay. So now our website, it's refreshing workspace. Come on, come on. You can do it. And the fan in my computer is whirring. It's just, and the memory it's using, 22,000, 22 gigs of, I have 32 gigs of memory, and it's using 22,000 gigs now. Okay, right. 32 gigs, and it's using 22. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. So previously we only had the folder for the day one. Now look at it. It's got all these folders, each one representing one of the days. And if we open, it's got all those services that we wanted, that we had final status, and in English and Greek and English. And I believe, yeah, we won't talk about the indexes. We'll talk about the indexes another time. So you see what we just did. We did it. Look what we did. we generated with a tap of two keys, how many pages? How, I mean, thank you, Michael. Thank you, God, for this would have taken forever. It would have been impossible to do, in the old E-Manton's way of cut, paste, copy, whatever, and create a manual. So, so that was 1 month, and then I would just change this to 6, and I would do June in a similar way, and then we would move on to the PDF files and the other things, which we'll do in the next webinar, God willing, on Tuesday.